right, welcome everyone to our regular meeting of council for January. We have full council in attendance this evening. Councillor Link from Ward 1, Councillor Bussetti from Ward 2, Councillor Kleiber from Ward 3, and Councillor Prague from Ward 4. Our CAO in attendance, Brent Alnick. RM of West St. Paul, there is our MLO, Municipal Legislative Officer, Lainey Shaw. Welcome everyone to our meeting. I will call the meeting to order with our resolution of council. Be it resolved that the meeting be called to order and that the agenda for the meeting be adopted as circulated. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Bussetti. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Link.
Thank you. Of course, I will be voting to adopt the agendas as they appear on the RM website for the public and on AllNet for council. This does not mean I approve of any additions made to the agendas following the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Just to clarify with our legislative officer, Ms. Shaw, would it be legal and appropriate for us to add things to the agenda following a meeting when the meeting is done?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If council is in agreement, there's no issue, especially if we use the resolution to add the addendum. It's not a problem.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns regarding adoption of the agenda? Oh, hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Item number 3, addendums to the agenda. We have no addendums, additions, or deletions for the agenda. 4 is our opening remarks to council. I will read those now. RM of West St. Paul strives to be a safe and inclusive community that residents are proud to call home, where diversity is embraced, the environment is cared for, and leadership is valued and trusted. The West St. Paul Council is committed to working as a team to provide good governance, safe and reliable infrastructure, recreational facilities, and outdoor spaces that the community can enjoy in a sustainable way that values the environment and is financially prudent. Thank you. We have no planning hearings for this evening, which is unusual for us. We usually have a lot of planning items, so a bit of a break from planning this evening. And we have a 6 o'clock delegation coming, so I'm going to jump us down to item 8.1. And Mark Arndt from Tennis Manitoba is joining us this evening as a delegation to update us on the Tennis Manitoba project and status of our agreement with them for tennis courts in at the Sonova Center site. See you there. Welcome, Mark. Are you able to hear us okay?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for having me. And our president, Mohammed Ismath, is also on the in the meeting as well. So I, again, appreciate the time, and I will get right to, I have a PowerPoint presentation that we can update you as to what our status is with the proposed tennis facility at the Sonova Center site. So if I can get to that. Fantastic. Okay, are you able to see my presentation? Somebody can let me know. Okay, fantastic. So to start off with, this is a conceptual drawing that we had a few years ago, a couple of years, 2.5 years ago or so, before COVID started. So this is just an overview of the site, and that's what our vision is. I will give a description of the timeline here as outlined. So late 2018, discussions between the RM of West St. Paul and Tennis Manitoba regarding a tennis facility gained momentum. Fast forward to 2019, after having considerable meetings and talks with the RM, we were able to put pen to paper and start developing an MOU and drawings and plans for the site. Took a considerable part of 2019, and as we were gaining momentum, February 2020, unfortunately, COVID hit. And whatever fundraising efforts that we did start in December, January, February, all were halted because of the pandemic. Fast forwarding now from February 2020 to August 2020, the MOU between the RM of West St. Paul and Tennis Manitoba was signed. We immediately began our capital campaign, which included grant writing and private donations. Again, we got going, gained some traction. And unfortunately, January to November 2021, prospecting for private donors paused due to COVID sensitivity. We just didn't feel it was the right time to approach businesses, private donors and such. And I know with the federal government, provincial government, a lot of the grant applications were put on hold as well. That took us to December 2021. Prospecting for private donors resumed. We did have great talks with potential donors, and in the grant writing, the grant applications, those were well underway again, and we gained back that momentum, I'm hoping. Going into January 2022, currently we're in the process of the final stages, basically the final stages of a federal grant that has been put forward. It's in front of the federal minister. I've had great discussions with the government and with the representatives. And I don't want to, I am optimistic, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we will receive that grant. But again, we'll see what happens if it does happen. The result, we are anticipating it to be given to us by the end of February, but things can change as well depending on what happens, obviously, worldwide and with the pandemic and things of that nature. So if we do get good news, good results from that grant, then we will be in a position to start construction at the end of May 2022. Again, we've had to pivot. We've had to change from what our original plan was prior to COVID. Again, just simply because of financially through the grants and speaking with businesses and private donors. We're obviously in a different position financially. A lot of companies are, and private donors are in a different position as far as how much money can be donated to this project. Just again, throughout the presentation, I'll just show some images of what we envision for the facility. So this would be a pathway. You can see on the left here, there is the hockey rink. So pathway to our tennis courts from the parking lot would be as such. And again, this all points to obviously the municipality, the residents of the municipality would be using the tennis courts hopefully from April when the snow melts, April till October, November, whenever the snow flies. But a key player in this whole project, as well as if it is built, if the courts are built as proposed, then we will be able to bring the National Bank Challenger Tennis Tournament to West St. Paul. It's currently in Winnipeg. It has been. We are entering our 9th year this year in 2022. But the scope of work at the West St. Paul site will be very welcome for the ATP, which is the organizing, the governing body of the Challenger Tours. So my first point there, phase 1 of the proposed facility is completed. The National Bank Challenger Tournament will relocate to the West St. Paul site in July of 2023. If we do start construction this year in May, it just simply wouldn't leave us enough time to get everything ready for July. It would be close, but it would be cutting it too close. So just the comfortable thing would be to start in 2023 at the Sonova Center. National Bank Challenger, for those that may not be aware, the Challenger is part of the ATP Challenger Tour, which is a worldwide professional men's circuit. ATP is basically the NHL of tennis. There's different levels to it. Some people, when asked about the tournament, ask, what level of tournament is it? And my simple, people usually think that it's say the AHL of the as compared to the NHL, but it's in fact a higher level. the analogy would be second, third line players in the NHL are who plays here in Winnipeg, in West St. Paul, hopefully. Players that are ranked anywhere between 70 and 200 in the world play here. So if you take the NHL, for example, we all know the NHL, got what, 600-700 players that play in that league. And so this is well within, second, third line players that play tennis at our tournament. It is truly an international professional event with over 35 countries having been represented in years past. Also, we have officials that come in from around the world. Say for each tournament, we have to fly in between 120 and 140 people between players, officials, and representatives and things like that. So when we started the tournament, it was originally a combined women's and men's event. The tournament is now a men's only competition. We will be in a position to bring back the women if the facility is constructed. So just a bit of a history. Tennis Canada asked us, Saskatchewan had a men's lower level event back in the day. They had lost that tournament in Saskatoon. Tennis Canada asked if they can, I'm going to do air quotes here, but borrow the women's event, take it to Saskatoon, but bring it back once this facility is built. And we had site visits with Tennis Canada representatives at Sonova Center. We had site visits with the ATP, having delegates flown in from Monte Carlo. They loved the site. They saw what our drawings were, what our vision was for the facility, and they were on board with what we were doing. So that was a positive. So if we do get the facility built, then we will be in a position to bring back the women's component of the tournament. As I mentioned earlier, 2022 will mark the 9th year in Winnipeg. The event was not staged in 2020 or 2021 due to COVID. So here's, I just want to put together a little bit, just so we understand, sometimes when you're in the moment and running the tournament, you just kind of forget and stop and think the type of players that do play here. And hopefully everybody is familiar with Bianca Andreescu. So she played here. Her career high world ranking was 4 prior to her injuries. But as you see there, she's holding the US Open Women's Singles Championship trophy. This was a few years back. So she played at our event. Felix Auger-Aliassime, also Canadian, played in our tournament. You see a photo there with all the ball kids. His current rank is 9 in the world. And also the top player right now based on ranking is Alexander Zverev from Germany. His current career high world ranking is 3. So those are a little bit of a sample of the players that have played here. A few more. Layla, top left corner here, she did really well, lost the final of the US Open last year, made headlines worldwide. Her current ranking is 24. Bernard Tomic from Australia, ranking 17 in the world. Joanna, she won our tournament a while back. Her career high world ranking is 4. And a few other players right here to speak of, but that just kind of gives you the scope and the magnitude of the type of player that plays here. So it is a first-class world tennis event. Just some more images. These are our photos that I culled together from years past, just from the site where we're playing at right now, and that's Winnipeg Lawn Tennis Club in Fort Garry. They've been a gracious host throughout the years. They have 11 courts, but not all of those 11 courts are used because of the proximity to each other. We have to not use every second court because there are certain dimensions and guidelines for court usage. So yeah, that's not able to use all those courts. This is how we envision going from those photos to this rendering, and hopefully it does come to fruition, but this is what we are proposing for the site. Obviously there will be tweaks, but this is a starting point, a conceptual of what Tennis Manitoba and what our architects, what we envision for the site. Skip here to community benefits. It's an all-inclusive facility, of course. Free casual play for all residents of West St. Paul. Preferred pricing for West St. Paul residents on sanctioned programs, such as camps, leagues, lessons, which individual and group lessons. Accessibility for the school, for the West St. Paul School, and of course other schools in the Seven Oaks School Division. We currently do programming at the West St. Paul School. We send certified instructors, and we've been doing so. They started back in September, and our program's running up until till May, or until school lets out. So that's an example. We're doing everything in the gymnasium, but having a facility like this, we'll be able to move that program over and play on proper tennis courts and instruct on proper tennis courts. Sonova Center camps programs, we'd have a proper tennis venue. I know we've done programming in the past inside the hockey rink, which is not the ultimate, but still, it is still great to get involved and introduce tennis to the community. We've also done camps at the Riverdale tennis court site as well. But this would definitely be an upgrade from those two to have the proper courts. Complete accessibility for wheelchair athletes. We do have wheelchair athletes, both juniors and adults, and it is a struggle to find proper facilities for those athletes that do travel to the nationals and represent Manitoba, and we'd be very proud to have a proper venue for these athletes. Seniors programs as well. Seniors are a very important part of our population, and we need to keep them involved in tennis. It is popular amongst seniors, but we will have a place to play for our seniors as well. Manitoba provincial team would be a training center for the provincial team. It also includes our Canada Games team. And the facility would give us the ability to host national and international events, not just the professional one, but we would also be able to hold nationals for junior nationals for kids, and perhaps ITF international events for kids as well. But this definitely puts us on the map in Canada and worldwide. This facility would do that for us. Another photo just from ground level of what stadium court would look like. And again, we have it so 1,000 people would be able to fit in stadium court to watch matches and practices. I have as part of the presentation just a case for covered courts. Our project is broken into two phases. The first one being the outdoor courts and bringing the professional tournament over to this municipality. Also, long-term big picture would be to have covered courts. That'd be the ultimate goal, is to either cover 4, 5, or 6 courts. And this would be a case for covered courts. If you can just take a moment here to watch this brief video.
15 love, 30 love, 40 love. And just like that, tennis has become the game Canada loves. Grassroots play is up 30% since 2012 to 7 million Canadians. Record 11 Canadians cracked the top 200 global rankings in 2017. And because heroes inspired kids, children playing frequently has grown 300%. This momentum would be unstoppable were it not for the one element we can't control: our weather. And with just 650 publicly accessible covered courts in Canada, the limitations on its momentum become very real. So Tennis Canada is working with municipalities to double the number of bubble courts across Canada in 10 years. The benefit is worthy of the ambition. First, it would extend the game from 6 to 12 months. With every 6 public courts bubbled, 1,000 Canadians can play. Over 10 years, that's 100,000 more Canadians playing, from Burnaby to Bonavista. Think of it as 100,000 smiles, 100,000 families staying active, 100,000 ways communities can come together year-round. It's true, we can't stop the snow from falling, but we can ensure the community benefits of this great game keep rising. Let's make more possible. Because when tennis smiles with us, it is a nation that smiles right back. 15 love.
Okay, so after the video, where we stand today. Just a brief outline, the numbers where we're at. And again, as mentioned, prior to COVID, we were able to get some donations, and not as much as we had hoped for. We found that recently the time is right in the community to approach donors and companies, corporations, and things like that. But where we stand right now is at $100,000 for the private donations. Tennis Canada and Tennis Manitoba's contribution at the moment, we have $200,000 set aside. Grant applications written in these last 2 years, approximately $5 million. And as mentioned, we are in the final stages of a federal grant application worth $750,000, and we will learn within the next weeks whether we are successful. So phase 1 of the project consists of 5 courts, including 1 stadium court as depicted, with 2 lit courts. Also includes pathways to the course and tree planting. Cost based on January 2022 quotation is $1,175,000. The positive outcome from the federal grant application, we're approximately $125,000 away from beginning the construction of phase 1. Our immediate focus and effort, maximum effort, will be on securing $125,000 to enable us to start the project. Project total, phase 1 and phase 2, approximately $5.4 million. So to conclude, game, set, and match, completion of phase 2, ultimate would be to have 7 to 10 outdoor courts and 5 to 6 indoor courts. This is realistic. We've obviously had to adjust, pivot, as you might say. Our original plans were a little bit more to have 10 outdoor courts, 6 indoor courts. But again, being sensitive to our times and being sensitive to what is going on out there, this is more of a realistic goal, is to have the 5 courts and then also have anywhere 4, 5, 6 indoor courts. So with that, I will stop my share here, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take questions. Mohammed as well is on board to take questions.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks to both of you. What a great presentation, good update for council and the community. I'm going to go around our virtual council table here and see if there are questions for you. Mix it up a bit. We'll start with Councillor Craig. Any questions for Mark or Mohammed?
No, I'd like to thank both gentlemen for coming this evening to this council meeting as a delegation. I'll be honest with you, there are vicious rumors out there that this project is dead. And I know I was in past council and I was involved in this project coming to West St. Paul. And I know what rumors are. If you don't have something to back it, it just falls by the wayside. And I'm extremely happy today that you 2 gentlemen came here to say that this project is still going. Thank you. I'm very enthusiastic about this project moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Craig. Councillor Kleiber, any questions for Mark or Mohammed?
Well, thanks for your presentation. I certainly haven't heard any rumors at all. I always thought that we were going forward and COVID was a hiccup and we're moving on. So it's good to see. Your presentation was really nice. It looks like it's going to be a great facility. I was watching some of the Australian Open there, and one of our Canadians playing there, Shapovalov. I don't know if I'm saying the right way.
Shapovalov.
Yeah, and he was fighting hard, so it was good. It was good to see. And I also watched Francesca. Is it Francesca?
Bianca Andreescu.
Bianca, and what was the other one's name?
And Leila Fernandez.
Leila.
Yeah, I watched Leila in that U.S. Open, and man, I thought, go girl, go. So she did a really good job. So we've got some really good talent in Canada, and let's just keep producing some more and keep doing that. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'm just going to touch on that on the Australian Open, and it's just amazing when I look at the actual draws from the men's and the women's side and how many players that have actually played. I didn't list in my presentation. It's impossible to list everybody, but just to see the names that have passed through our area that have played in our tournament that now you see there, and you've met these players and you feel like they're your own as well, especially the Canadian ones. Like Leila is so fantastic. Bianca was so nice. Felix is an amazing person. Just great ambassadors for Canada, for the sport. And it's a privilege to have known these people, and they've come past through, and you feel like you have a part in their progression by hosting an event and having a facility like this that enables them to reach their goals as well. So yeah, it's massive.
Councillor Bussetti, any questions for Mark and Mohammed?
More of a comment. Thanks for this presentation. You know, it's too bad that COVID happened because there was a spark going, and Mark, I could see it in you every time we saw you around, you know, down the street at my brother's, and you know, you're just ready to go. And I hope seeing this kind of lights me back up again. You know, you coming with a update on this, and I hope it lights a fire under you guys too, and your sponsors. I hope they, you know, pull out the checkbooks again and get this going. So it's good to hear, and good to see that it's coming back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Link, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I would like to add my thank yous for the presentation. And I have not heard any rumors about one way or the other. And thank goodness, it looks like maybe COVID is on the downturn, hoping, just like you are, that it is. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Link. Well, I thank you both for being here, and I know I've jumped onto social media to address any rumors that this was all smoke and mirrors and that you guys aren't bringing your courts. So we've certainly shared information. I've shared information on social media to let residents know that this is a go, and how exciting this is not only for West St. Paul but for the region. And when you're bringing in 140 some odd people to play tennis, they're staying at hotels in the area, so they'll be possibly staying in Selkirk and of course Winnipeg. They're eating at restaurants in the area, and they're supporting our economy. So that's really exciting. I know our neighbors, when they heard about this project, would be asking for updates of how that's going. So I'm hoping that you get some more donations from people throughout our region. It's hugely beneficial in terms of hotel stays and restaurant stays. And the international coverage to West St. Paul that this tournament will bring is really exciting. I think we're all excited about that. So it's great that way. And just when you show the pictures and the renderings again for residents to know that this is accessible to them, that this isn't just the top stars that are going to be here, that our kids in our community will be able to learn tennis on the same courts as the top tennis players in all of Canada and all of the world. And that's exciting. And the upgrades that you guys would be bringing to the Sonova Center facility with paths and all of these tennis courts, that's truly something amazing for our community. So I'm really happy that you guys could come tonight and give an update for our community and for council, that you're so close to reaching that goal. And, you know, I'll give you a plug out here for sure right now that if there's people wanting to donate and get you guys closer to that, this is truly a benefit to the whole community, not just Tennis Manitoba. So many of the kids in our community, my own included, have taken tennis lessons, Mark, through the program that you've been working with Demera at Sonova Center. So I know you're already generating excitement in the community, lots of families signing up for tennis. So kudos to you guys on the work that you've done so far. And I'm really excited about this. Sky's the limit here on what you guys are going to bring to West St. Paul with this project.
Cheryl, thank you so much. And I like what you said. You know, you're going to put a plug in, and I hope all your councillors also will give us the support of doing some fundraising to get the project going. And actually, me and Mark are very excited. We are working very closely, and hopefully within a week or two, we will get more excited by getting the approval of the federal community revitalization grant. Right, that's what we are working on right now. And I am more excited about West St. Paul community, how much benefit the community and the kids and the parents are going to get. That's what I'm a volunteer, and I'm a tennis parent. Right, my story has been the benefits that what my kids have got, and now what I can give back. Like, you know what, the amount of things tennis can do for the kids is humongous. Right, we create so much great personality in the community. And a simple example is my kids, you know, say both my kids are leaders in the Winnipeg Society today. And we hope that West St. Paul kids going to get the same benefit going through tennis and the programs.
Well, thank you both for that. That's great. community gets an update. And I don't know if we're able to share your PowerPoint presentation on our website or not. I think admin can reach out to you after on that, but certainly our meetings are recorded for people to view again if they're wanting to see the details. So, and anybody wanting to donate, absolutely, we encourage local businesses and individuals to help get you guys right over the mark. You're so close. So thanks for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we will continue on with our agenda. We are at item 7, confirmation of the minutes. 7.1, committee of the whole meeting for January 11th. Be it resolved that the meeting of the committee of the whole meeting of council held on January 11th, 2022 be approved. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. 7.2, regular meeting of January 13th. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January 13th, 2022 be approved. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Bylaws for consideration, 9.1, first reading of elections officers bylaw. I will read the resolution and we can discuss. Be it resolved that the bylaw 2022-1, being a bylaw of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, to appoint and to fix and provide for the remuneration of a senior election officer and other election positions, and repeal bylaw number 2013-18 be read a first time. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion on this bylaw? Mr. CAO, we've had our the administrative report attached. If there was anything else that you wanted to add.
Yeah, I'll just add that we're doing this because Section 10 of the Municipal Councils and School Board Election Acts requires council to appoint a senior election official and may provide for his or her remuneration. Sections 12.1, 13.1 of the Act and the proposed bylaw further provides the senior election official may appoint an assistant senior election official, as well as other election officials and supervising election officials. So we do this every election. We're doing, so this is an annual thing we do about this time. And there's been increases based on to the per hour for the senior election officer and the assistant senior election officer based on comparative salaries in other jurisdictions. And then you have an enumerator in some parts of the community will be going out that they will be getting paid 75 cents per name, and then at the polls to pay people to sit at the polls. So it could be a tough job. The levels of professionalism in West St. Paul during election are high. We've had competitive elections, so this isn't a community that sits back. People participate. We don't have wards where people don't run. Our senior election officer, Helene Garlick, has done a wonderful job in West St. Paul and at the federal and provincial elections. So here we are today with the bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Councillor Link, I'll begin with you for questions.
Yes, I'm glad to see that the SEO will be appointing an enumerator. There's a lot of, well, it's debatable whether there's a lot, but I'm going to say there's a lot of businesses in West St. Paul. And I have the business park in Ward 1. Anybody who's running in Ward 1 will want to touch base with the business park people. There are businesses along Main Street. There are businesses along the perimeter highway. I'm sure that in all of the wards, there are businesses. If the business owner is a property owner in West St. Paul, he's only got one vote. But if the business owner owns property in West St. Paul, lives elsewhere, he can still vote, still has a vote in West St. Paul. And I am hoping the enumerator would be able to include the business people who are eligible for casting a vote in this election on the roles that candidates receive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Link. As I would turn that question to our CAO, is that past practice businesses are aware of that, landowners are made aware and are voting?
Yeah, we have private businesses, people vote all the time. It's advertised, the rules are advertised. The Municipal Act, the Election Act is there for access. We've put it in our newsletter. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the commitment is up to the person to vote. And I know the last election, we had a high participation rate. So one of the higher rates in Manitoba participating.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Councillor Bisetti, any questions, comments?
No questions. Thanks.
Councillor Kleiber, any questions regarding the election officers bylaw?
Yeah, I was wondering why we keep appointing the same election officer. Has opportunity been given to anybody else?
There's no reason why we wouldn't appoint the same election officer if they're doing a good job. Just like if someone does a good job at their work, would you appoint someone else the next year? If you have someone that's working for your company and they're doing a good job, would you come the next year and tell them you're not working here anymore? We're going to get someone else?
Are you asking me a question? I'll answer it. Yes, it's called equal opportunity. You give equal opportunity to people in our community if they want to apply for the position.
Well, we posted the assistant election officer position and only one person from our community applied. So there's the opportunity for to apply, and only one person from the community applied. So
when did you post it?
we posted before Christmas.
Well, I didn't see it either.
I don't know if you were at the meeting where we talked about it.
Councillor Pereg, any questions? No. Councillor Link, further question, go ahead.
It's my understanding that the School Board Act, whatever act, and Elections Act, whatever act covers what happens during the election, says that this SEO has that job until they don't want that job, or they die, or they resign. We really don't have to appoint anybody. She has it.
You're right, Councillor Link. We would. I think there are ways where you can unappoint them, but the senior election officer stays on there. The senior election officer has been on since the last election after she did her follow-up. I don't want to even, for me, it's distasteful to talk about not having someone come back who's done, and I've worked elections since 1979. I ran City of Winnipeg elections from a long time. It's just distasteful to talk about getting rid of somebody that's done a good job. So you're right, that senior election officer is appointed and stays appointed. And, so we're, as the senior official administrator at West St. Paul, I'm proud of our person that's running the election. And I think we've done a wonderful job. There have been challenges in the community during elections, and we're highly professional. It's highly competitive here. and there's a high rate of participation. So I said it at the end of the last election, kudos to Helene Garlick, who is our senior election officer, that I'm so glad she is coming back.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. It was, I think we were 68%, somewhere in that range, when the average is around 50. So she had a lot of people come in and vote, which is wonderful, something that we're really proud of as a community, and it's more work for her. I can't recall, but I know you would, the number of pre-voting opportunities residents have, if it was 6 or 7, which is rather uncommon for a small community, and she organized and oversaw that. The position of her election officer working with her was advertised publicly. And Mr. C, I don't know if you want to talk about who that position, who was awarded that position to assist her, somebody also very knowledgeable who has worked with elections in our community for years now.
Yes, Sharon Yackel was the successful applicant for that position, a longtime West St. Paul resident, and Helene sat in on that. I'll call it we'll call it an interview, but it was more of let's state what we're looking for, and you know, we've got your resume. Are you interested still? And yeah, so she'll be, Sharon's agreed to move forward with this. Helene will be formally appointing her, and they're excited to work together on this election and make sure that everyone has the chance to participate, and even look into ways where what is happening in Canada, provincially, federally, municipal, is how do you get out there and get you know, give everyone that opportunity to vote. So you look for different locations. You look for, you know, in the case of the Middle Church Home, roving polls where you may go room to room if people can't vote. All kinds of different, you know, mobility polls, all kinds of different ways, exciting ways that we could get people to participate in the election. And the success of election is based on, you know, when you say success, you just can't say it. You have to have a measurement tool. And the case of elections, Canada-wide, how they understand if you've been successful in holding an election is your participation rate. And as you stated, I knew our rate was close to 70. It was 68%. That there have been communities under 50%. So it's not uncommon to see participation in the 40s. I think the average was around 52 or 53. So when you see a high rate like that, that means successful, well-run election.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. I think we can have a lot of public trust in knowing that the right people are in these positions to ensure a proper democratic process coming forward for the next election. Seeing no further comments, I will ask for a recorded vote. And I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Item 9.2, third reading of Ward Boundaries Bylaw 2021-15. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-15, being a bylaw of the rural municipality of West St. Paul, to revise the ward system for the purpose of electing municipal councillors and repeal bylaw number 2017-18 be read a third and final time, signed, sealed, and therefore passed as a bylaw of the rural municipality of West St. Paul. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Brissetti. I'll see if there are any questions, comments. Councillor Brissetti, I'll start with you this time.
Thank you. No comments.
Thank you. Councillor Kleiber, any questions, comments on the ward boundary bylaw?
Given the population growth, why are we not adding another counselor?
Well, I mean, the first thing, you wouldn't add just one counselor, because if you add one counselor, you're going to end up with tie votes. So you never see in even numbers. So you wouldn't have 6 counselors. You always have 5 or 7. In the city of Winnipeg's case, it's 15. So you wouldn't just add another counselor. So you would have to add 2 counselors, and the population, in my opinion, just doesn't warrant it now. The population per ward, if you compare to St. Andrews, St. Clements, East St. Paul, City of Winnipeg, neighboring jurisdictions, that we're still probably per ward population in the lower percentile for those. So definitely we don't see the need for another counselor, and it would have to be 2. Tie votes, as you are aware, is a defeat and causes confusion and disharmony in the community if we're getting tie votes and not being clear on what's going on. But in saying that, we've had the consultant that we hired, so this was done at arm's length, has put some recommendations in and has recommended that when we do our next election, that we take a bigger look at the picture, and we look at, maybe, is it by ward? Is it first across the post? What kind of format are you using? And potentially look for, more elected officials. At that point, we'll have the population growth will be more evident to us what's going on. So she has made a recommendation when she came to council to discuss this on the second reading, that she would expect on the next round that we do this, that we take a look at everything.
Thank you, Mr. Seo. Councillor Kleiber, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I've been looking at some of the other RMs, and they have, some of them are smaller than we are, and they have more than 5 counselors. They have 6 or 7 counselors. So I'm not sure why we can't do that. I mean, I look at the RM of Alexander, there's 7 counselors. I look at Alonzo, there's 3, 6, 7, 8 counselors. I look at Altona, there's 8 counselors. You look at some of these other RMs that are much smaller than we are, and they have way more counselors than we do. And I think that the way that the territories are broken up, they're huge as far as geographically. And it's time that we start looking at adding more counselors and not keeping it in such a, we're not getting paid much anyways. So it's not going to be a big expense. And we would have some more representation of a cross section of people. And I think that's really, really important. So, when I look at the listing of all of the RMs, we're one of the smallest ones. In fact, there's very few that are smaller than we are. And we should be on it, and we should be having a much bigger representation than we do. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Kleiber. I'm not sure what you mean by smaller, but I mean, we've had this process going on since December. We had an open house, and this is the first time I heard, at last minute Hail Mary pass here. This is the first time I heard from you about you would like to see more councillors. I have heard from you about us spending money needlessly, and I've heard that when we've had meetings, that why have we called this meeting? We're spending too much money. So I'd like to, I mean, it's up to council at the end of the day what they want to recommend moving forward, but I'm prudent of what we spent. I don't think adding 2 more councillors is going to give better representation to the people. The councillors I have been talking to regularly talk to during COVID, and we have different means of communication. So I think if you've read any studies on how to effectively have meetings or get decisions made, the less people, the better, right? So having 7, 9, or 15 people in the room to make a decision. In my mind, if you want to talk about philosophy of meetings and making decisions, it's quite proven that the more people you have in a room, the tougher it is to make a decision. So there's currently about 7,000 people in West St. Paul, and if you're calling it that's what you mean by smaller, you're right. We have a smaller population than St. Andrews or St. Clements. We have a smaller population, so I believe St. Paul is around 10,000. So their 5,000 people are, representing a population about 2,000 each. Our 5 elected officials are representing about 1,500 people each. So the West St. Paul, if we use a direct comparison to East St. Paul, have a lot more access to their elected official than East St. Paul if you're going by population.
Well, it's interesting you say that 6 wouldn't work when East St. Paul has 6. And there are 9,000 people. St. Clements has 8, and there are 10,000 people. So the numbers aren't adding up. Nevertheless, you called this meeting for the ward boundaries when I wasn't available, so I wasn't here for the first 2 meetings. But I am giving my opinion now, and I think that we should have a couple more counselors. I think that's the right thing to do. I don't think it's expensive, and I think in the long run will save us money. Thank you.
Well, just for some clarity, I don't think East St. Paul has six elected officials. I may be wrong. Yeah, well, thanks for your input. You could have wrote into the consultant. There's numerous chances to.
Consultant agreed with me. I had a long conversation with her, and she agreed we should have more, at least one more counselor.
Well, I just told you the even number counselors, that doesn't usually happen. I don't know where that is happening. You're mistaken if you think that East St. Paul has 6. I'm fairly certain of that. So, yeah, clarified that they have 5. They do not have 6. You're on record with your argument is based that East St. Paul has 6. You can fly with that. If I would highly recommend to council and the consultant, if they came and they said we want to have 6 elected officials, I would highly recommend you stick with 5 or you go with 7. You have an odd number, so you get decisions on a majority basis regularly.
Yeah, thanks for correcting me. You're right. It is 5. I counted the CAO in there.
Councillor Prague, any questions, comments, concerns regarding the proposal put forth by the consultant?
No, thank you. I made my comments to the consultant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Link, any comments, concerns, questions regarding the bylaw put forward by the consultant?
No, thank you.
Thank you. No concerns from me as well. The consultant did a good job reaching out and engaging council members individually, coming to council to speak with us and update us and provide her recommendations. I didn't see anything in her recommendations when she came to council about adding councillors. She talked about things in the future as our population grew. I have no concerns with keeping 5. I look at some of our counterparts in the city of Winnipeg and the thousands of people that they are responsible for and to, and they do an excellent job. We have 9 people at Red River Planning District, and those 9 people represent the entire region all the way up to Winnipeg Beach, Denauder. So geographically, not concerning. I am financially prudent as well and concerned to be adding a lot of expenses for 2 additional councillors. I know that this group is managing calls and questions from residents with no problems at all. So personally, I know we're all entitled to our own opinion. I see no value added to the community in just adding people to the table without justification for it. I think the people at the table respond to their residents and our staff respond to residents, and there'd have to be, for me, a strong case made for adding people. Everybody's had an opportunity. We have a mover and a seconder on this. I will ask for a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. All right, we are down to item 10.1, payment register. That is for information. Councillor Link, go ahead.
I'd just like to let CAO know that I'll be sending a follow-up email tomorrow about the resolution number that approved the hiring of a consultant. And I also I got a phone call late this afternoon from a resident about one of the items on the check register. And that was about the payment for the Dashness water line. And I subsequently went to the Manitoba Water Services bid page and saw that Accurate HD was awarded the Manitoba Water Services contract in West St. Paul for the water line along Holmes Road. And I understand the RM's probably acting on behalf of Dashness School. Now, the the contract was awarded to Accurate HD at $357,787.50. The amount on the payment register is over 62,000 less than the awarded bid. So just wondering why the check amount to the Minister of Finance is considerably less than the tendered amount. And the second question just is to confirm for the resident that the RM was acting on behalf of Dashness School with the Manitoba Water Services Board. And the final question is, where will council see the reimbursement to the RM from Dashness School for paying for the water line?
Good question. I was going to talk about that. So Dashness School prepaid. When we told Dashness School that we didn't feel it was appropriate that a well was used, and we said that you know, the school was well underway, and you know, we told Dashness School that if you're going to have kids in a school, that we want potable water, and you know, they said, okay, you know, we want to bring potable water, and there was a price tag on that, and the RM was not going to pay any of that money, and Dashness School agreed to it, and so Dashness School has paid us. We've had that money in our bank account, and we've already made some payments to the Manitoba Water Services Board on this project, and that's, I believe, is the final payment for it, so that they gave us you know, their final bill at the end of the year, and we paid them that money. So there is no cost to the RM of West St. Paul current taxpayer on the Dashness School water line, and that was paid by the private partner of the school, and the school is happily using a municipal water, so good, safe water.
Just as a follow-up then, thank you for one thing. And as a follow-up, the checks, there were more checks made out to the minister for this. I understand that's what you said. Were they marked on the payment register as this one was? Did they indicate Dashness water line on the previous registers so that we could see that's what was happening?
Well, I don't have the registers right in front of me, and I couldn't say for sure right now, but we you know, we use the matching principle. We have Dashness School has paid, and you know, you stated what the tender was, and there was some additional cost beyond the tender, and they would have been paid. I don't know what we put in for the. It's just a reference and a description on the register. It's
It should be consistent though, hey?
Well, it depends on what the payments are to the Manitoba Water Services Board. So if this reference in this check register here is I see the most is 6 words. So if you're paying 7 different payments on one bill, we might have not said Dashness School. It depends on what the payment is. I think it's in the ledgers where you're most worried. You have the ledger where we have this money in the bank, and I can't control when the Water Services Board comes to us and asks for payments. Sometimes, as you've seen in the past, we've had the Water Services Board ask for payments 2 to 3 years after a job has operationally been finished. So that's the province of Manitoba. We owe them the money. These checks are cut, and it's we know that we owe them. We pay them. In this case, it has cost the RM no money.
Okay, so if the resident is satisfied, I hope the resident will be satisfied. If they're not, their recourse, I guess, would be to ask for the documentation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's, if they want to ask for the documentation, they can ask, and they can ask the Manitoba Water Services Board for documentation based on they're the project manager. They could ask us, and they can also FIPA it through the Ombudsman's office. It's up to them. I don't think I'm accountable for a specific what we put on a check register and that to a resident, but they can certainly send something in writing and ask.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the payment register? And thanks to those always who submit in advance. That's great. Good discussion on that. That's a big ticket item that was on the registry. And it's good for residents to know that we have the money in the bank for that and that Dashness School is paid for that. So lots of good work with our private partners. That check registry is accepted as information. 12.1, financial statements for the period ending December 31st, 2020. I'm going to read the resolution, get a mover and a seconder, and then we can have discussion. Be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of West St. Paul accept the financial statement for the period ending December 31st, 2020. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brusetti, seconded Councillor Parag. I'll go around the table for discussion. Councillor Parag, I'll start with you. Any discussion? Thank you. Councillor Kleiber, we'll turn to you.
Why are we approving a draft financial statement? We should be approving an audited financial statement, not a draft. It's interesting that on Monday I say we haven't had the financial statement. It's 7 months late, and 4 days later, voila, we have a draft statement. Now, I can't approve a draft statement. It's not been finalized. It's not been the numbers obviously haven't been finalized. It says draft all over it. So, our job is to approve the financial statements once they've been fully audited by our auditors. So I'm not going to approve it ahead of time if it hasn't been audited yet. Thank you.
So,
and I'd like to report a note for this.
Yeah, this is something that we always do, and I'm going to bring Crystal on to explain, before you could go to audited statements, you have to, I believe, have a resolution that council has seen the final draft. So good catch, Councillor Kleiber, but we're following normal procedure. And no, because you said something 3 or 4 days ago, Crystal's been working on this. Crystal had been away for family. She's been off, and now she's back, and she's she's working on catch up, and that's where we are. I'll let Crystal explain why this is coming to council in draft, and Mayor Crystal is here to, he's the Director of Finance. He's a designated CGA Bachelor of Commerce, U of M, and she runs the finance department here. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Crystal to speak to council and do her job. Thank you.
We'll have some follow-up questions for Crystal then. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So these are our draft financial statements. They're the finals for 2020. We bring them to Council every year. Normally they come before the reserve appropriations are presented. Unfortunately, I had run out of time to print them for the last meeting. Therefore, you are seeing them today. So as you can see that we did have a surplus in 2020 of over $700,000. And we then appropriated $750 to reserves in 2020 at year end as well. We present these statements, like I said, every year once all adjustments have been made. And those adjustments are reserve transfer in or out based on revenues and expenses that were approved through budget, or development costs that we've, development revenues that we've received. Any adjustments that are required for asset allocations, as well as grant revenues to ensure that our receivables are correct as well for the year end. Are there any questions on the statements regarding the surplus? I'm open for discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Shahada. I will go around and see if there are questions for you. And I had started with Councillor Kleiber. If you have additional questions for Ms. Shahada directly, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so thank you, Ms. Shawada. Page 3 is your general operating fund statement, correct?
Correct, yes.
That's your revenue and expenses. Well, you've got expenses on this page.
Yes.
Can you explain to me why we have a bad debt expense under administration?
Yes, so the bad debt expense is accounts receivables that were written off. They were recorded in prior years. There were a few that were recorded. We were anticipating grant funds for flooding, which were not later approved. There's also a couple of other receivables that were written off. It's just immaterial overall. We're not going to go after someone for, $200 or $500. It's costly to the RM to proceed with those collections. Therefore, it was decided to record a write-off for some receivables that were very overdue.
So what was the flood grant amount?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't have a detailed listing of what was written off, but that can definitely be forwarded to the CAO through the mayor for further clarification.
The protective services were over $132,000 for maintenance. Why are we over so much?
Yes, so in 2020, we received a grant for flood preparedness. I believe it was roughly around $80,000. So there is the expenses of equipment that were approved through that grant recorded in that section as well. There was also some maintenance performed on the vehicles that are in that section as well.
Well, isn't anything that we go over supposed to be approved by council?
That I was not here during the 2020 year end, so I can't speak on what occurred at that time. I'm presenting the financial statements.
Under transportation services, we're again over $37,000 on professional contract services. And then we're over again, the next line, again, professional contract services for environmental health. What's the professional contract services that we're over so much?
Mr. CAO?
And we're over again in environmental development services under professional contracts.
Well, I think you need to look at the whole picture, and the whole picture, there's grants that you wouldn't see. Grants are in on another page. So it may look like you're over budget, but you're not. But I think it's a municipality cannot run a deficit. So I want to be clear that you're cherry picking here certain areas, and in fact,
one area, professional contract services.
we had a
All three.
$780,000 surplus. So on our budget, we are in a $780,000 surplus. So we're not in a bad position at all. We're probably in a better position. You know, I don't know for sure, but I would say we're probably in a better position than anyone in the capital region at this point, less the city of Winnipeg. So I'm going to go on and let Crystal address, you know, what she's talking about. But you need to look at the whole picture when you look at.
I am looking at the whole picture. What I'm seeing is in 3 areas that professional contract services are over budget. And I'm asking the question, why in 3 areas for professional contract services are we over budget? Like collectively, that's a lot of money. So why are we that far over?
Well, I'm gonna leave that with Crystal, but collectively we're $780,000 surplus.
That's because you got more taxes in than you anticipated, but it has nothing to do with the general operating fund right now and the expenses that are going through. And that's what I'm trying to question.
Well, it has everything to do with it. We have $780,000 that's a surplus. So I'll hand it back to Crystal, and she'll do her best to answer the questions. If they're real specific questions, she can get back to council. I don't believe she has all the detailed documents in front of her.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Yeah, so the reason we're over in transportation services for professional contract services, that would be due to ditching. We do hire out for the ditch clearing of bulrushes. Also, any roads, if we had extra work that was approved after budget had gone through. So road construction that occurred in 2020. Environmental health is our garbage and recycling. It is difficult to exactly budget how much we are required in that area with the growth going on. We can't anticipate how many homes we're going to have in a year. I try my best to budget or estimate how many new homes and new collections we're going to occur in 2020, 2021 and going forward. It's not exact. In environmental development, that is due to development. So that would be all our Stantec bills for lot grades, which are collected back through revenues. So it's offset. There's an expense and a revenue nets to zero. So I think that explains the reasons why we're over in those areas.
Okay, so Ms. Shawada, you said last year that you have a hard time estimating what our revenue is going to be with taxes. Do you have any idea what our revenue is going to be with from the new home bills this year? Because is this $700,000 surplus? That's kind of where it's coming from, is it not?
So the $700,000 surplus is related to added taxes.
Right.
We have additional penalties. We collected more than what we budgeted for, as well as grant surplus funds. So grants we cannot budget for. They're not guaranteed. We don't know how much we will receive in a year. We apply for as many grants as we can to offset our expenses. But like I said, they're not guaranteed. So we will realize surpluses in years that we receive large grant funding from provincial and federal governments. We also are seeing cost savings in some departments. Overall administration, there was a cost savings there of $137,000. In transportation, overall, we saved $76,000. So that just means that our department managers are doing their best to obtain lower costs for projects, for purchases, or not overspending in their areas. They're managing their budgets properly. And also, I believe recreation, we also saw $92,000 cost savings in that department as well. So
So
those
in
are
the-
all areas that contribute towards the surplus. It's not just directly added taxes.
Okay,
I
so
just, can I just
on
jump in,
the,
Councillor Kleiber, to,
I'm asking a question here. Could I?
yeah, but I
please
just
not
want to,
interrupt you?
I think I need to define to you, when we talk about added taxes and new development, because I think, and maybe all of council to understand it clearly, that when you have new development, we do not know when the province will add the homes to the tax roll. So it could be after 6 months, it could be after 1.5 years, it could be 2 months. So we can't forecast that when it's coming. So that's called added taxes. So in a lot of cases, 2 years after a home or a business is built, it is put on the tax roll. Then those people will get a tax bill and it will be for 2 years. We get that tax bill that's 2 years in arrears. We get all that money at once. That's almost impossible for Crystal to forecast when the province is going to put that on the tax roll. And one of the things that we don't usually talk about, but it's a windfall for the RM of West St. Paul or any municipality, is that when you have a multi-year tax bill that's sent out and the school taxes are on there as usual, they are not remitted to the school board. They stay with the RM of West St. Paul. So that's how you end up, you know, part of your new development is including school taxes that say with West St. Paul. So that's how you get part of the reason for our, you know, and Crystal told you some other reasons for our reserve. I had to jump in because I wanted to clear up about, you know, how the province puts on the assessment, and Crystal has no idea when they're going to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Sears. Go ahead, Councillor Kleiber.
Of the $700,000 that we have in surplus, how much of that would be from grants?
Yes, so we have approximately $380,000 from grants.
Half of that. Almost half of that.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and the other question I have for you is.
No,
if
sorry, I
we
just wanted to clarify, that's grants that were unexpected. So the federal restart was the large portion of that, which was received in 2020.
Right, okay. And so we still have to approve the audited statements though, that's correct?
Correct. Yes, so these are our final statements that we have to add to our audit file. The auditors look at these statements to ensure that council has seen final 2020 statements. And then there are PSAB adjustments after these statements are done, and then we receive the audited statements. So the auditors will prepare our PSAB statements for us, which end up being the audited statements.
So the auditors are going to do your journal entries, is that what you're saying?
No, they supply me with the journal entries to make the adjustments in our books if required. Most PSAB entries we don't do in our books because we run on a cash basis.
So if there's no adjustments from the auditors, then this is the final statement, is that what you're saying?
No, the statements will be different, right? So we operate on a cash basis. PSAB is accrual, which right. So they make those adjustments on their end in their trial balance and then produce the audited statements, which are PSAB basis.
But as far as you are concerned, you're finished your adjustments.
Yes. These are our final statements that I'll submit to them along with all the working papers that they require.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Bisetti, any questions for Crystal regarding the statement? Councillor Craig, any questions for Ms. Shahada?
No, thank you, Ms. Shahada.
And Councillor Link, any questions?
Yes, and I really appreciate seeing these on the agenda. I have questions about page 4, the total transfers. That's the bottom part of page 4. Now, this report of yours, it's dated January the 19th. That's following the meeting on the 13th, where we made appropriations to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reserves. Now, looking at the transfers to reserves, can you tell me where the transfers made on January the 13th, where they are on this report?
Yes, they don't show up on this report. This report is before surplus transfers. So this shows you your true surplus for 2020.
Okay. So when we see the auditors, we're going to see
The audits,
what will change in this section. Say just one example of what will change.
right. So the auditor statements look completely different from what you're seeing.
Okay. All right.
What they do is they back out any surplus transfers. It's part of a PSAB entry. I don't know the logistics of which entries they do, but they do back out, I know, the surplus transfers. So anything that's gone to reserves is backed out. Any assets are transferred to assets, and so on. So they reallocate everything and combine it based on what is required for reporting for the province.
So, so you don't know where in the auditor's report we'll be able to see these transfers?
I'd have to look back at the audit. I don't have an audited statements in front of me right now.
When it comes out, would you be able to point that out to us?
There is a sheet on the back that shows all their adjustments that they've done. So it's the last report generally that they present with their audited package. And it shows what they've reallocated in and out between reserves and general operating.
Well, when the 2020 audit comes, I can look for that then, hey?
Yeah, and
that
we'll
final sheet.
present it as well to council once we receive them.
Okay, if you could, I know I'm asking a lot, but I hope you could remember to point that out, and I'll try to remember to ask. Thank you. Now, I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not, and if it's not an appropriate question, just say so. I compared December 31st, 2019, the first page of your report to this 2020's December 31st, first page. And I saw that due to utility in 2019, there was over 4 million due to utility. And now at the end of December 2020, due to utility, there's a negative amount of over 12 million. So that's a huge span of difference. And is it possible to account for that, or offhand, or?
Yeah, so it's due to the asset transfer. So it was an audit adjustment that was prepared by the auditors and issued to us with our 2020 or 2019 audit, my apologies. So what it was is they took the assets out of general operating and moved them over to the utilities. So that includes the sewer line, the water line, and the lines within the developments that are completed with the project, the sewer line project. So they allocated from general operating to utility. That's why you see that amount there.
Okay, I think I understand that.
I do have to discuss that with them, which will be happening with the 2020 audit.
And is that likely to happen again? They're going to move things again because it's a negative amount in there. Or
No, they won't be moving any assets until Rossmore and Addis are moved over to the utility accounts. So those will be allocated over to the utility once the project is completed and ready for amortization. So once we start amortizing the lines in the Rossmore Addis area, because the project was completed end of 2020, they're still considered assets under construction at this time. So in 2021, you'll see another adjustment from the general operating to the utilities. And that number will change there as well.
And that will be as a result of the Rossmore Addis LID then. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I thought that was all completed. I guess I'm mistaken.
Yeah, so it was completed by end of 2020 still, so it still remains as an asset under construction in 2020. In 2021 is when it becomes an actual amortizable asset.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. I was just writing a note. Thank you. Those are all of my questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shahada, for presenting this to us tonight and for being available for questions. My question is probably to the CAO, but you're able to answer as well. Just in terms of overages for over budget and our financial plan, nothing can be spent unless it comes to council for approval. And I know these are December 2020, so I'm racking my brain on some of the things that came to us. Not very much comes to council in terms of overage. But I remember we had a fire truck where there were different specs added that went over after a chassis was busted up on another fire truck that was unsafe to be used in our community. And I know that went over budget and that had to come to council for a resolution. So I do recall that there's a few things there. But Mr. CEO, maybe you could touch on that in terms of anything that's over has to come to council. Otherwise, this is as per the financial plan approved at the time by council.
I can touch briefly on that. I just want to say that, you know, Crystal's still getting her feet on the ground here, just being back the last few months with the financials. So it's you know, it's a difficult and complicated position. So you know, she's getting back in the groove here. But you know, a couple of things I'll say that you know, this financial plan doesn't necessarily point to big overages or anything in departments. As a matter of fact, it doesn't really give a detailed a look at departments. So it's hard for me to give you descriptions of what's happening. But we certainly don't go over budget or overspend. We will come to council if we have, for instance, if we do a tender and the tenders come in high, we wouldn't appoint that tender amount. We would come back to council. We had a case with some emergency trails work this year where we came back to council. So yeah, council is usually aware of everything we're doing. We're not just going over budget. And you know, the rule is that no municipality can have a deficit at the end of the year. This year on our budget, we have a great surplus. You know, I point to our reserves for the municipality that when I came here 11 years ago, we didn't have anything in reserves. We're closing in on $14 million now. And, you know, if I had to give my judgment on the RM of West St. Paul and our financial health, I would say we're in a very healthy situation. Other CAOs and CFOs have told me that they would like to be in our position. And I think more I would put that question to Crystal, and she can state with her professional background of being a commerce grad and a designated CGA who continues to train in the accountant field with her, acquiring more education I would leave the final word up here with Crystal on, how she feels about the status of the financial health of West St. Paul.
Yeah, I feel that we're in a great position. We have healthy reserves. We're able to purchase assets without borrowing, which is an added cost to residents. We're saving the residents large sums of money by being able to fund our projects on our own with the development that's going on within the RM, and us constantly being successful with grant funding. So overall, I feel great. We're in a great position and looking forward to many years of this continued success.
Thank you so much for your clarification tonight, being able to answer questions. I know there was some confusion at the last meeting regarding that surplus, so I'm glad that you could break that down for us. There was some kind of talk of redistributing surplus and somehow departments aren't operating effectively. And so I'm glad today that you could clarify for us that that's grant money and education surplus, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and understanding our finances. So thank you for that. I have a mover and a seconder on this item. I will request a recorded vote, and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Ms. Shahada, for being here tonight and for all the work that you do. We've got a lot of things going on in the RM, a lot of LIDs and some complicated finances to look after with all our sewer projects and water projects. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, we're moving on through the agenda. And we are to general business, item 15.1. I'll read the resolution and then we can discuss. We have a notice to reconsider resolution 2021-542. Whereas at the regular meeting of council held on November 25th, 2020, Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul passed resolution 2021-542 to approve the minutes of October 25th, 2020 as amended, to reflect that Councillor Link had voted in favor of resolution 2021-486. And whereas upon review of the video of the October 25th, 2021 regular meeting, it was determined that the vote had been recorded correctly in the draft minutes presented to council on November 25th, 2021, and that Councillor Link had voted against resolution 2021-468, and that the amendment to the said minutes was incorrect and not required. And whereas in accordance with section 139(1)(b) of the Municipal Act and the provisions of the procedural bylaw, Mayor Christian provided notice by way of letter dated January 6, 2022 to address the correction, and Councillor Link by way of email dated January 26, 2022 requested the same correction. Now therefore be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of West St. Paul correct the minutes of the special meeting of October 25th, 2021 to show that Councillor Link voted against resolution 486, and that words as amended be removed from resolution 2021-542. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion on this item? Seeing no discussion, I'll request a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Item 15.2, 2022 grant request for Sonova Center rental fees be waived. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul waive the Sonova Center facility rental fees for the proposed events as follows. West St. Paul Lions Club Fall Supper, Sunday, October 23rd, 2020, $525. West St. Paul Fire Department Poker Night Fundraiser, Friday, March 4th, 2022, $1,400. West St. Paul Fire Department SIMAD Fire and Life Safety Conference, Thursday, May 26, 2020, $250. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion on these waived fees? Hearing and seeing none, then I will request a recorded vote, and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. We are now on item 15.3, 2022 Seniors Lunch. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul will provide a $500 grant for 2 senior lunches in 2022. And further, be it resolved that the facility rental fees of $500 plus GST for the events be waived. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will request a recorded vote, and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Item 15.4, Red River Basin Commission Fish Dinner. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul waive the Sonova Centre facility rental fee of $1,600 plus GST for the RRBC Fish Gala Dinner to be held Thursday, March 17th, 2022. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will request a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item 15.5, St. Amant's Autism Awareness. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul waive the Sonova Centre facility rental fee of $525 plus GST for the St. Amant Autism Awareness Ride to be held Friday, June 4th, 2022. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? I will request a recorded vote. Hearing and seeing no discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item 15.6, Appointment of Municipal Weed Inspector. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul appoint Terry Ferguson as the Municipal Noxious Weeds Inspector. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion on the Municipal Weeds Inspector appointment? Hearing and seeing none, I will request a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item 15.7, Annual Reappointment of Fire Department Membership. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul reappoint the following members to the West St. Paul Fire Department as listed. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bussetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll request a recorded vote.
Request for a recorded vote from Councillor Kleiber. Hearing and seeing no discussion, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item 15.8. We have the appointment of tax sales manager. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, pursuant to bylaw number 2011-1 of the RM of West St. Paul, appoint tax revice, if I'm saying that correctly, Tax Service Inc. to conduct tax sales for the RM of West St. Paul. And further pursuant to bylaw 2011-1, the RM of West St. Paul, Donna Zinkew, General Manager of Tax Service Inc., be appointed tax sales manager for the RM of West St. Paul. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. All right, 15.9, tax sale date. Whereas Section 365(1) of the Municipal Act provides that council must offer for sale by auction every property in the municipality that has taxes in arrears for the designated year and meets the criteria for sales by auction established by regulation. And whereas Section 3652 of the Municipal Act provides that council may designate the immediately preceding year or any earlier years as the year for which the properties for taxes in respect of which are in arrears for the year must be offered for sale by auction to recover the tax arrears and costs. Now therefore be it resolved that the designated year for which properties in arrears be offered for sale by auction be 2021, meaning all properties with outstanding taxes from the year 2020 or prior. And therefore be it resolved in accordance with section 363(1) of the Municipal Act, cost shall be the actual costs incurred for the sale price listed for the 2020 tax sale plus administrative fee of $50 as set forth in the Manitoba Regulation 50-97. And further be it resolved that the tax sale be held October 19th, 2022 at 2 p.m. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded by Councillor Busetti. Any discussion on that? Mouthful of a resolution that everybody's had a chance to read in advance. Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Sorry, I didn't see you vote, Councillor Kleiber. Am I frozen now? No.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, could I have a verbal tally on that vote? I had a frozen screen.
Yeah, there was a bit of a freeze there. All those who voted in favor? Opposed?
I think we were all disconnected.
And Councillor Kleiber, I didn't see your vote on that one. Was it in favor or opposed?
I was in favor.
Thank
Is
you.
everybody frozen? Okay, now you're back.
Okay. All right, we are on 15.10 Mutual Aid Memorandum of Understanding with the RM of Rockwood. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul authorize the Mayor and CAO to enter into a Mutual Aid Memorandum of Understanding agreement with the Municipality of Rockwood. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Busetti. Any discussion, questions on that? We have the administrative report on this, as well as the Mutual Aid Memorandum of Understanding. Hearing and seeing no questions, I'll ask for a recorded vote, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. All right, I'll read the resolution for us. We have one in-camera item. I will read the resolution and take us in camera. Whereas the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul passed Resolution 2021-366 to permit a code of conduct complaint be investigated by a designated provincially approved third party as selected by the Chief Administrative Officer in accordance with legislation. And whereas the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul passed Resolution 2021-502 that approves the request from People First HR Services via letter dated October 26, 2021 to continue their investigation. And whereas the Chief Administrative Officer has received a final detailed investigation report from People First HR Services dated January 24th, 2022, now therefore be it resolved that A, closed in-camera meetings dealing with the Code of Conduct matters shall be facilitated by the CAO, as has been our practice, and Section 8.3 of the procedural bylaw number 2021-8 will be suspended for closed in-camera meetings dealing with Code of Conduct matters. B, in accordance with Section 152.3 of the Municipal Act and Section 9.1 of the Code of Conduct bylaw number 2021-13, Council do now move in camera. And C, in accordance with Section 83.1D of the Municipal Act, any issues that are discussed are kept confidential until discussed at a regular meeting of Council. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Busetti, seconded by Councillor Prague. Any discussion?
Madam, yes. Did we lose Councillor Kleiber or lose your connection or anything? Or is it just my screen? Just making sure. She's back, coming back.
Well, you guys froze on my screen a couple of times. Is it me or is it the RM?
I had only you freezing up. I could see everybody else moving on my end.
Okay. Well, I guess my network says it's unstable. I'll do my best.
I've got a mover and a seconder on the resolution. Discussion. I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed?
I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm voting on.
The
To go in
resolution
camera?
to go in camera. Item 19.1.
Okay. Okay, in favor.
And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. We are back out of camera. Coming out of camera, our rise and report, we had a council members code of conduct issue that was discussed. And I will turn this over to our municipal legislative officer, Ms. Shaw, to read the resolution coming out of camera. Ms. Shaw?
Madam Mayor, the first resolution in our rise and report reads as follows. Whereas, 1, a complaint against Councillor Kleiber was filed under Code of Conduct for Members of Council Bylaw 2020-10 that, oh, pardon me. I'm sorry. A complaint against Councillor Kleiber was filed under Code of Conduct for Members of Council Bylaw 2020-10, the Code of Conduct, alleging a breach of confidentiality under Section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act, Manitoba. 2, by letter dated June 21st, 2021, the Provincial Independent Intake Reviewer of all municipal codes of conduct complaints advised that it had completed its initial assessment of the complaint and accepted same. 3, Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul passed Resolution 2021-366 to permit the complaint be investigated. 4, People First HR Services was retained from the provincial list of investigators to undertake the investigation. 5, People First HR Services delivered a final detailed investigation report dated January 24th, 2022, the final report, which found that Councillor Kleiber did contravene Sections 6.1a and d, 7.4a and 7.5a and d of the Code of Conduct by breaching confidentiality under Section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act, Manitoba. 6, the final report made certain recommendations on sanctions to be imposed against Councillor Kleiber in the circumstances. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, having reviewed and considered the final report at an in-camera council meeting, hereby affirm the findings therein that Councillor Kleiber did contravene the Code of Conduct.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. I will request a recorded vote. And as per legal advice, unless there is anyone wanting to go back in camera, there is no discussion on the in-camera matter. If any member of council is now wanting to go back in camera to discuss, we can discuss back in camera. As per legal advice, we won't be discussing.
I'd like to know why we cannot have a discussion as long as it's not in camera information.
We're not speaking about the in-camera matter. As per legal advice, if there's further discussion on the matter, we would go back in camera.
Because you don't want people to know that you're
We need a
not
vote.
following.
We need a vote. We need a
Have I got a mover and a seconder on this? I'm sorry, mover, Councillor Prague, seconder, Councillor Brussetti. If there's further discussion on the item, then we would go back in camera.
I would like to know
Is
how
anyone wanting to go back in camera on this item? We don't talk about the in-camera report or the issue or the discussion out of camera. I don't see any hands raised to be talking back in camera. You have an opportunity to raise your hand if you'd like to go back in camera. Right. So if there, I will request, that would have to be by resolution. So I will call for the question. Is anyone wanting to go back in camera? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And Councillor Link, I didn't see your vote on that item.
That's because I'm not voting on the item. Abstain.
Are we voting according
Abstain.
to
Thank you.
relations?
So we are not going
according
back in
to what
camera.
you want?
I have a mover and a seconder on the Code of Conduct resolution. I will request a recorded vote and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Ms. Shaw, we have a second resolution coming out of camera. I will turn it over to you to read the second resolution coming out of camera.
You're not. You guys are a bunch of unbelievable. You're not following provincial guideline voting. Why would you do that?
Councillor Link, Councillor Kleiber, we had an opportunity to go back in camera and that was defeated. We've all had an opportunity to
You don't
discuss the
follow the
issue
vote.
in camera
The vote
and
says
we
you're
have
not
discussed
supposed
the
to
issue.
vote.
Ms. Shaw, I'll
You're
have
not
you read the
supposed to vote.
second resolution and I need to keep order, Councillor Kleiber. I know this is a sensitive issue. We've had every opportunity to discuss the
Voting.
in-camera issue in camera where that discussion belongs. Ms. Shaw, I'll have you read that resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution 2. 1. A complaint against Councillor Kleiber was filed under Code of Conduct for Members of Council Bylaw 2020-10, the Code of Conduct, alleging a breach of confidentiality under Section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act. 2. A letter dated June 21st, 2021, the Provincial Independent Intake Reviewer of all municipal codes of conduct complaints advised that it had completed its initial assessment of the complaint and accepted same. 3. Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul passed Resolution 2021-366 to permit the complaint to be investigated. 4. People First HR Services was retained from the provincial list of investigators to undertake the investigation. 5. People First HR Services delivered a final detailed investigation report dated January 24th, 2022, the final report, which found that Councillor Kleiber did contravene Section 6.1A and D, 6.7.4A and 7.5A and D of the Code of Conduct by breaching confidentiality under Section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act, Manitoba. 6. The final report made certain recommendations on sanctions to be imposed against Councillor Kleiber in the circumstances. 7. The Code of Conduct has been repealed and replaced with Bylaw number 2021-13 dated November 25th, 2021. And 8. Section 11.1 of the Code of Conduct addresses the factors to be considered by Council when determining to impose sanctions on a member of Council. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul, having reviewed and considered the final report, including the recommendations on sanctions, hereby imposes the following sanctions. 1. That Councillor Kleiber be required to issue a letter of apology to the CAO and Council within 30 days after being directed to do so. B. That Councillor Kleiber be required to once again complete the Manitoba Codes of Conduct mandatory online training course. C. Suspend Councillor Kleiber's power, duty, or function as a member of Council for a period of 60 days without pay, beginning 12:01 a.m. on January 31st, 2022, ending April 1st, 2022. And D, that Councillor Kleiber be required to attend and be responsible for the costs rather than the arm of West St. Paul, an emotional intelligence EI training and coaching session recommended by People First HR Services within 30 days after being directed to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Busetti, seconded by Councillor Prague. Once again, given that our process and procedure is, and on legal advice, not to have discussion on the in-camera matter. If there's any further discussion, we would need to take that discussion in camera. Is there any request to be going back in camera to discuss further? You can raise our hand if we're wanting to have a resolution to go back in camera to discuss further. We have discussed all of these issues in camera. They are in camera items and we cannot discuss out of camera. Seeing no raised hands to go back in camera.
It stands away, isn't it? It's convenient.
I have a mover and a seconder. I will request a recorded vote and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
You don't have a majority.
I will read the resolution to adjourn the meeting. Be it resolved that this meeting of council be adjourned. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Busetti, seconded Councillor Prague. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Good night.